right, hello everybody. We are here with Sushil of SBA Disaster, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about the next steps. By now, probably most of you have received your EIDL first up to $10,000, and now emails are starting to go out for you to apply for disaster loans. And so if you get the email, you have to create an account, maybe go through some documents, and you're kind of like, wait, what do I need? So Sushil is going to walk us through all of that, the documents you need, the underwriting criteria, what you can apply for, the use of funds, rate and term, all of those good things. So Sushil, I'm going to let you take it away, and then we'll have a little Q&A at the end.
Rhoda, thank you again for your hospitality and your desire to create an awareness for everyone. I'm Sushil, and I'm with the Office of Disaster Assistance out of Sacramento, California. And what you see right in front of you folks is what a SBA Rapid Relief Loan Portal account looks like. You'll get an invitation from a domain. If you look at the bottom, disaster customer service at sba.gov, that domain, sba.gov, is what you'll be getting an email from. And this is what it's going to look like. The body will be very specific. So your SBA application loan number, that's your confirmation number, starting with a 3, 33, 36, 3000, that'll be listed on there. It'll walk you through very specific steps. So when you click on the create account, it'll take you to you'll create your own website, and that's where all the interactions takes place between you and the back office, in this case your loan manager, your case manager, and so on and so forth. So you have to create that. I don't have anything specific steps after that because it's proprietary, but it's standard: name, social security number, so on and so forth, and you create that account.
Is there anything people should look out for as far as phishing or anything that they should know, oh, this is fraud or this is from the SBA?
And that's a good question. The initial presentation when we started off, we talked about an email from sba.gov. That's what you need to be looking for. If it's anything other than that, sba.com, sba.edu, so on and so forth, don't even click it. It will be specifically from a .gov address. This is what you'll see once you've created it and when there's any movement on your application. So you go from a credit pull status to a loan quote status to a funding status to a decline status to a withdrawn status. This is where you continue your application. You log in with what you created the previous page, and you get to see all that's on the inside of the portal. If you want to reset your password, which is the next one, reset the password. Call the number, and if that doesn't work, they'll always escalate the phone call depending on the severity of the issue. 1-800-659-2955. And please do write it down, just like everything else. It's password sensitive, capital versus non-alphabetized versus something else. So please make sure you have that account number and or your password handy. It's going to be quite instrumental throughout the piece. And Rhoda, if you go over to the next slide, that's how you know that your application is approved. So a couple of
what you've been looking for.
This is what you won't be looking for, exactly. So a lot of times from credit pull to wait, status is still in processing, you'll see this. And you have 60 days from this time frame to accept it for the loan, and the loan documents will be in here, very specifically in your portal, asking for you to sign it. And once you sign it, e-sign it, it's through everything's electronic signature, it gets processed. So everything is through this portal. And this is what you're looking for. And again, if you pay attention, it's a .gov address, period, end of sentence. And the loan number is very specific. If you were to move your mouse over that application number within parentheses, Rhoda, that's what you need to be looking for right there. It'll be up top, right below the blue banner, and then in the body of the actual paragraph.
And they should be able, if they're looking for also to confirm there's no fraud, that application number should match what they already have from their first $10,000. Have they been assigned an application number, and it'll be the same?
It'll be the application number will be the same. The only time there'll be a change is once the loan's funded, and it'll change over to a loan number. And that loan number is on their loan documents that they're signing electronically. It'll have an actual number listed on there. You'll get an invite to a portal. You're asked to create an account. Once you create an account, there's an email and a password. You confirm the password. If you want to go back to that slide, we can go over it in a little bit of more detail than we did. For the sake of time, I went through big picture, 50,000 foot view. So go back to page, I think right there. So, it'll have your email address. That's your primer. Password, and enter the password one time, and then enter it again to confirm it. Okay, that creates the account. And once it creates the account, the loan officer gets a message that says, okay, it's been created. And then whatever loan quote is created by the system is then sent to the applicant. And it's a quote. So it's not necessarily the loan amount that will be approved for. Okay, so let's say, Rhoda, you get a loan quote for $150,000 and you accept the quote. Okay, once you accept the quote, that is our mission then to continue to process the application for the sums of money that you accepted the quote for. Okay. Any updates, if you go to the next slide, any and all updates will be right on that page. Credit pulled, processing, any updates will be right on there. You'll sign in with your username and password, and you'll get to see what, if any, there has been in terms of updates. And we talked briefly about putting the page over, which was resetting the application, resetting the password, and that's where you would go to.
Okay, so when the quote is generated, or just by virtue of creating the account, there's no other application or documents that people have to submit?
That's correct, nothing at all. It's just a place, a secure place for the SBA and the applicant, and I'm going to use you as an example again, Rhoda, to interact, to get the information that the two of you need to correspond back and forth.
Oh, I see. So again, it's very low doc. They don't really have to do much, just create the account, and then how are they coming up with that quote? Is it just like 3 times their payroll or previous tax returns, or how are they coming up with that quote?
The quote is based on their NAICS code. NAICS code is the NAICS code, North American Industrial Classification System. That generates it. It's on their application. And they're listing the business activity. They're listing what it is. So it's more of a algorithm, an algo as they call it in the world of fast trading, if you will. There's an algo that generates that number, and that number is based on their industry, and that's how the number comes out to be.
Okay. Not number of employees like the PPP or anything like that?
No, on the application, at the bottom of the application, ones that we've done before, you'll notice that the application asks for a number of employees. That's how that number is determined as to whether it's 10,000 or it's 2,000 or 3,000 or nothing at all. If you mark don't want funding, you get no funding. If you list one employee, you get 1,000. Not on that application, on the actual rapid stream.
Oh, okay. So there are a few questions they'll answer. As far as documents that they need to have ready, maybe just their EIN or anything. Do they need any documents ready as they create this account?
Absolutely. Just the EIN number, have that handy. So sharing my screen would be where now? Love when technology comes through. Now, if you look at the very bottom, there's the number of employees. You see that? At the very bottom of the application.
Okay, maybe.
Number of employees. That's where at the very bottom it says.
I see. Yeah, I do see that. Okay.
Number of employees, and then detailed business activity. That's what drives the loan quotes. Okay. Here's where it says I'd like to be considered for an advance up to $10,000.
Okay.
So this is the last page of the application. Okay. So if you mark nothing, you don't get any funds. So this tie-in here up with the word up to, along with what you saw previously, the number of employees drives that advance amount.
Okay.
Well, you follow?
Well, my mind sort of went to if they decline it now, but I think you said they have up to 6 months to accept a loan. What happens if they don't want it now and want it later?
It's 60 days.
60 days. Okay.
Right. It's 60 days. And if that's when you sign the loan docs. If you don't sign the loan docs, it gets withdrawn, and then
Okay.
it's subject to availability after that.
Okay.
And the way I would approach this, if I were in the applicant's shoes, knowing fully well that capital access is extremely strained at this stage of the game because no banks are offering subsidized interest rate of the fixed nature of up to a 30-year repayment and a fixed rate basis. My humble opinion is to take the money,
Mm-hmm.
use, and if there is no desire to use it, return it without any prepayment penalty.
Oh, okay. And the rate and term on that you have to do that, or what are the rate and terms?
Well, it's 3.75% fixed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And up to 30 years, but no payment starts for the first 12 months. So, there is no expectation of a repayment starting off, but if you want to repay the loan right off the bat, within 30 days or 15 days or 20 days, return it. There's a Form 1201, which I'm sure you folks are very familiar with being SBA experts. Fill that along with the account number listed on it and the address, 721 19th Street in Denver, Colorado, and send the money back.
And there you go. So if you have not applied yet, and I get it, you're out of luck for that 10,000. They're still doing ag on that, aren't they? Or can you?
Well, they reopened it, so I stopped sharing so that you could take access over.
Okay.
So as of a couple of days ago, the portal is open for anyone to come back and reapply. And I use the word reapply with the anticipation that they never got a chance to apply before, not for the ones who were turned down or withdrawn. The portal is open for applicants who have not previously applied.
Rhoda?
Yes.
When you go for the number of employees, obviously, if you want to get at least your $1,000, you'd claim one employee, which is yourself. Is it the number of additional employees, just raw numbers, or do they have to be full-time employees, or how part-time can they be?
It's number of employees, sir. You're bringing in the PPP mindset into the EIDL, and the twain shall not meet.
So, no, I'm just asking. So, if I had an extremely part-time employee, that's still one more employee.
That's correct, sir.
Okay. So you can apply for the EIDL now.
Yes, correct.
It's been reopened, and then they will continue processing, and you will be able to apply for the disaster loan as we traditionally know it. That's not a part of the CARES Act.
That's the part of the overall uncivil unrest declaration that came forward, which is a separate scenario than the COVID portal.
Okay.
Since we're talking about COVID, we'll keep that separate. We can always add that at the very end after you go through.
Okay. All right. Let's go through my slides and make sure we understand what's happening. So we did the welcome email, set up an account. That was easy. Documents needed?
None.
Just your EIN.
Yeah, just to keep it handy, keep your EIN, social security number, your mailing address, how many employees you had at the end of the year. Keep your tax returns handy because you might not remember what your annual sales were and your cost of goods sold if it applies to you.
The underwriting criteria, I know you mentioned they'll be looking at your NAICS code, and you said there's a credit pull. Is there a minimum credit score?
I don't have that number handy. There is a minimum credit, and as long as you pay your bills on time and there's historical cash flow, for the most part, the loan is yours because it's a cash flow loan.
The use of funds, what are they looking, are there prohibited use of funds, or what are we looking for use of funds?
The use of funds, again, are very specifically for your ordinary, normal, recurring business expenses. The definition of working capital, as you know, is current assets minus current liabilities, right? And so whatever your business incurs in terms of indebtedness on an ongoing basis is what you're able to make the monies for. So people expenses, payroll expenses, lines of credit for your bank, current portion long-term debt due, income taxes that are accruing for the year, not past due. Those are all eligible expenses. Anything in the short term.
Payments?
Say again?
If you have debt servicing requirements, you can use that as?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Think of it this way. The way I usually like to present it is your revenue doesn't come in lump sum. Your revenue comes on a monthly basis. Take your loan amount, divide it by 6, and use that portion on a monthly basis, because this is revenue lump sum and offered to you for your use so that you don't have to keep coming back to the well.
And it's 6 months of operating expense.
Generally
Same
speaking,
as
it's 6 months. Correct.
6 months, okay. And you
Correct.
can, and as we talked about before, you're okay to reapply for an additional 6 months if you see that things are still lagging.
I'm going to change that word from reapply to have it modified to increase the loan amount. You don't come
Okay.
back to the portal, you go to the reconsideration address, and I'll shoot that to you momentarily also. And for the
Okay.
purpose of this discussion, it is Small Business Administration hyphen Processing and Disbursement Center, 14925 Kingsport Road, Fort Worth, Texas, 76155.
And so you have to write a letter. You can't do it electronically?
You can send an email to PDC, and I'll send that email address to you also after the fact.
Okay. Okay, perfect. All right. What's the timeline on that? Let's say someone creates their account. What are we looking at for a timeline or until funds disperse?
Generally speaking, the whole, given the nationwide pandemic, I've seen estimates, and I'll give you a very broad range. Start to finish is about 4 to 5 weeks for funding. Okay. The first 2 weeks is credit pulled. After that, it's a matter of a loan quote. After a loan quote, let me give you a terrific example. I had a situation in Oklahoma where an applicant said to me, start to finish was a week. Now that's
great.
that is clearly exactly an outlier of the most fastest sense. I wish all of it were that quickly, but there have been situations where people have waited 4 to 5 weeks to get their money. So it all depends. So as soon as possible is what we say to folks, but to manage expectations, I would say 4 to 5 weeks, just so that no one thinks as soon as possible is a cover up.
But it seems like they're definitely trying to automate it so that it can go faster and just doing it based on NAICS code or things like that so that things can be automated.
This whole process has been streamlined from the very get-go, from UCC1 filings instead of real estate filings, because anything less than 500,000 is a UCC1. Over 500,000, there's still a real estate filing requirement. There've been so many streamlined. I mean, it's been rapid change.
Right. I just thought while we were talking, are there any origination fees or anything? Are they gonna, when you said the UCC filing, are they still have to pay that $100 UCC filing? But other than that, no origination fees?
And that's really a state fee. You know, that's more of a county where you're filing UCC1, but the SBA has no fees, no points, no closing costs, and no prepayment penalty.
Okay, so they're net the full amount minus $100.
Correct.
Rate and term, just to reiterate?
Maximum 30-year amortization. All loans are being amortized at a 30-year term, and the rate is fixed for nonprofits, 275 and 375 for businesses of all sizes.
Are they deducting the amount that they already got from the PPP from the EIDL, or how does their PPP loan amount impact the EIDL loan?
There is no impact from the calculation of the loan amount on the PPP side, because as you folks might know, the PPP loan amount calculation is your annual operating costs divided by 52 multiplied by 8 to come up with that number, times 2.5. So that is your loan amount. What you're adding on to it is the net amount of the EIDL. And what is the net amount of the EIDL? It is your loan amount minus any advance you've gotten. So that is your loan amount. So that is the only way the PPP and the word impact come together. But otherwise, if a person has not applied for EIDL for PPP purposes, there's no reference of any kind.
Okay, so let's break it down in numbers. Let's say my EIDL is, I got the $10,000 from my first grant. And then let's say I qualify for $100,000 in the EIDL disaster. Then they'll deduct my 10,000. So now I'm going to get 90,000.
So for the PPP calculation purposes, the number you would add to that 2.5 times your the annual operating cost would be that 90,000.
Okay. But just for the idle, let's say I got 20,000 from the PPP, they're not going to take the 20,000 away from my 100,000
No.
that I could get from the idle, and now I net 80 or something like that, would they?
No.
Okay.
Basically, the confusion happens to be, what do I do with idle if I make payroll, and what do I do with PPP if I make payroll? So what the framers of this particular legislation were thinking about was to make sure that you didn't double dip. You didn't use payroll
Right.
proceeds from idle and PPP. And if you did, you need to ask for forgiveness, and that's where the calculation comes in.
Okay. Now, what I've been suggesting people do is you put your PPP in one account and the idle loan in a different account, and so they don't really commingle. So when you go to ask for forgiveness for the PPP, they can't say, well, you paid June payroll with PPP, and then you also paid June payroll with idle. So I've been suggesting that people keep those funds separate. Do you think that that's necessary, or how do you?
I have two words for you, Rhoda Flum. You know what they are?
I don't know, overly cautious? I don't know.
Good advice.
Okay, so yeah, keep the amount separate so there's no commingling of funds. I think for
Absolutely. So that's
okay,
why, like Rhoda Flum, two words, good advice.
great. Okay. All right, so we'll continue to make that recommendation. Any other tips you have for people managing the funds or anything like that?
Keep receipts for everything that you pay. Do it electronically. Do it through your online banking portal. Anything that you gave to the bank, make sure you upload it, put it in the cloud. Don't leave it with the CPA's desk. Make sure it's all automated, and keep an eye out for your forgiveness terms when they do
Okay.
come out in the application, so that you can take all those forms. So anything that you used to originate the loan is what you're going to be using to justify the loan forgiveness.
Okay, great. Grant updates, we did that. So
Oh, by the
people
way,
can go.
not to be a smart one, there are no
Oh, tell me.
grants.
All right, what would you call the first 10,000? I guess that's what we've been calling the first 10,000. What do we call that part?
Advance.
The advance. Okay, the forgivable advance.
There you go. Because a lot of times people think that it's, just a throwaway, giveaway. It's not meant to be that. It's meant to alleviate a much larger picture. Hey, by the way, while we're processing your bigger picture, here's some money to alleviate your pressure, if you will, that you're feeling.
Let's see here. I'm going to open it up for questions now. I know we've got a few people on the call. Any questions that people have, or questions that small business owners have been asking them that they want to try and clear up?
I'm all ears, guys.
All right, well, that's great. I guess we were just really great today. No questions. We were very thorough. Any final words or confusion that you want to clear up that you notice have been coming up a lot? I can give you the last word.
Thank you. Rhoda, as always, I appreciate your hospitality, your very robust involvement in these things for the betterment of the community. So appreciate you and Andy. In terms of best practices, keep an eye on when you're applying, your account number is different than your routing number. Make sure that your bank account matches your application. Make sure you mark off the number of employees. If you are self-employed, make sure you put one at least if you have no other employees, because if you put zero, you're not going to get any, even though you are a sole proprietor. So you need to make sure you put yourself. Any known documents that you're using to apply for an idle loan, keep it handy. Put it up in the cloud, whether it's Google, Dropbox, Box, Adobe, Google Drive, so on and so forth, because it'll come in handy. You suggested keeping 2 separate bank accounts. That's a great idea. And then, last but not least, what I'm sending you is the address for the reconsideration. If you don't have enough money after you've spent the money, what you need to do. Okay, so there'll be some follow-up items that I'll send you via email the next 6 to 8 hours, no later than tomorrow, and you can incorporate that into our presentation.
Perfect. All
Thank
right.
you for your time, as always.
Thank you very much for coming. Any final questions, anyone?
I have one last comment to make.
Okay.
Happy Father's Day to all the dads in your life and for the dads on this call.
You too.
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you very kindly.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All
Good
right.
update.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Be
Thank
good.
you. Happy Father's
Bye.
Day.
Thank
Bye.
you, Rhoda. We'll talk soon again. See you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye now.